meeting is being live streamed. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Yes. Let's see what we've got here. All right. La da 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 da. Check the microphone. Mic check. Mic check. Wasn't that a Rage Against the Machine track, right? Guerrilla Radio? Something like that. Raymond Helfrich is here. Sharon is here. Let's see. Scott is here. Yes, always more volume. It's because there we go. How's that? Gained up a little bit, about 6 or 8 dB at least. Hey, how's that? I have my studio engineer, Scott Fisher, in the house. There's always one. It's either Scott or Dean or Steve Hershey. There's always someone who's taking a break from recording at that moment to check in. Thank you so much. How's everyone doing today? And we've got, that's the volume. That's right. My headphone volume is the other one. I have this board that I'm still getting used to. It's a wonderful board. I got it for like $35 at the pawn shop. And I live for pawn shops and use stuff. So it's a really cool board because it's also an interface. And I'm always telling people, even if you're just doing Zoom meetings for work, get you an interface, please. The laptop microphones are okay, but they pick up your typing and they pick up, fan noise and stuff like that. So pretty cheap to get an interface, and then your volume can be too low too. No, that's on me. All right, well, we are kind of winding down here. I'm going to be taking my first break from Meatless Monday Meetup. Well, I don't even know, because I'll be on the road shortly. And I might do it from the road. It depends on where. Why don't we do it from the road? Sang one of my favorite vegetarians, Mr. Paul McCartney. And we're going to be talking about famous vegetarians a little bit today. But let's see what happens. That's the beauty of this technology. I could be sitting somewhere on a day off, and I will do Meatless Monday. Yeah. Because it's fun and it's a nice diversion from most of the modern headlines. But let's see here. Mondays. What? Let me just look at the calendar. Well, I can do this later, but I will let you all know through Facebook. What is it called? Stories, right? When it comes past, that will inform people as to whether I'm on or not. So okay, so let's see here. So okay, November 8, 15, 22 are Mondays. So yeah, it looks like I'll probably be on November 8th, November 15th. Yeah, and 22. So I might miss 1 week, folks. So maybe one. Let's see. I haven't decided about next week. It depends on how much work I get done this week, which is often the case. So, all right. Let's see what happens there. Hey, what did you all have for lunch today? That's always always fun to see what's happening there. And then I'm going to go right into. I'm going to start with food today because um, it's very random. But sometimes we go into the other topics first. No, do not show my location. So, all right, we're going to start right out with news in a second. There's Kevin Ritchie. I was just going to scan the comments again and send out an APB for my buddy Kevin Ritchie, which if he's not first out of the box, then I feel a little out of sorts. But good to see you, Kev, along with everyone else. Hope you're doing well. Kevin's had a challenging year, man, on top of the challenges we all have. So hope you're doing better, bro. Scott Fisher, no, please be that guy. Please. That's the thing about this. In regular broadcast, you have a producer and you have someone sitting there with monitors and they know exactly what's happening well before you start. So, no, please, bro, always text me or just get my attention. Say, dude, you're panned all the way left. Paul wrote that about seeing two monkeys doing it in the road. That's right. He's so funny. People don't realize how much humor and sarcasm and irony that man unleashes. Or hidden meanings, right? Like blackbird. It's about blackbirds. Chicks, women. Yeah, blackbirds. We saw these birds on TV, and they were getting fucked over by the U.S. policies, and we thought, yeah, maybe this is your time to fly. Things are changing. The marches are on. So that was about civil rights and Paul and the Beatles watching and seeing what was happening in America in the 60s to black people, to a lot of brown people as well. We're catching shit. And a lot of poor people. But at the front of the police baton parade was black people. And so Blackbird is about that situation. In fact, and I know most of you know this, but those of you who don't, just Google it. And about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Paul was on tour in Little Rock, Arkansas, I believe, and met with the women who were in the news item, like the Little Rock school integration situation, anti-segregation situation. And he met with them, and it's a beautiful picture. Of course, they were in their 60s, and they were from the 60s. Now they're in their 60s. And he had a wonderful visit with them. And so, it's not about a little bird. So thank you, Paul. Songs about monkeys and birds. The man loves animals. That's why he doesn't eat them. See how I brought that right back? I don't blow much smoke, but that I can do. I can segue. And I think it's just being a musician, because you have to do that on stage. Like, what key were we in? All right, I'm back in G, guys. Sorry about the... All right, let's get into some food. Scott Fisher had a little, mostly vegan, just egg muffin. Egg muffin. Right? National Lampoon. I think Bill Murray does that. The bass player, that routine. So you had an egg muffin, vegan sausage patty, vegan cheese, just egg patty, and the just egg patty, meaning the ones where they're pre-made, because that's a useful thing in a hurry. And then you had diced green peppers. Nice, always nice to have something from the garden. One of my things I always love to hear. An English muffin. Okay, well, what was not vegan in the English muffin? Do tell. Really, what brand is that? I'm wondering what do they? Yeah, maybe there's some skim milk or something. Yeah, tell me what's in your English muffin that's not vegan. Honey, maybe, I don't know. And had a meatless taco soup with peppers, tomatoes, fresh from the garden. Yes, I love it. Thank you, Ann, and thank you everyone growing some food. Our garden is kind of doing it's like, oh no, there's some frost. It's doing its last things. I had a delicious tomato yesterday from the garden. Peppers are really happening. long Thai chilies and some habaneros. I think I got 2 habaneros on the go. Nice orange one sitting out there. I'm going to see if it goes red. Uh, Tomatoes, herbs, a couple types of peppers. We didn't do much else this year. Just one batch of cukes and things like that. But it's really been great to go into the fall. Sharon says, still looking to try Just Egg. Yeah, it's great. And there's now a second company. It's one of the things I hope to talk about today. A bit pricey but delicious. Yeah, and again, it's all relative. I think, what do you got? 2 big omelets or 2 big frittatas, two big. You fill a frying pan with the whole thing, right? Is that what you do? We just use the whole thing often and make one big thing, and then it lasts. So that's the thing. We get about 4 servings out of that, I'd say. Yeah, 2 people get to eat twice from one of those. So that's kind of, I just offer that up as one way to think of it, because I just got some on sale for $3.98 the other day, and it's normally $4.98. I notice it's come down because there's competition. But even at $6, you're talking $1.50 a meal. It's not saying you have to view it that way, but that's one thing I try to do sometimes. I look at something and I go, well, yeah, this many servings. What would I pay in a diner, sort of thing. So, yeah. Kevin, good Paul story. Yes. Let's see, $7.99. Wow, that's pretty high wherever y'all are. But yeah, I noticed that's more like it, right? Scott, $3.99 exactly. Scott, the 12 ounce. And Scott, let's track this. I believe they're bringing it down because there's this other one now, which I can't wait to try and get your thoughts. And of course, that's the beauty of it's the beauty of capitalism, really. That people can compete and say, hey, we're going to make pizza down the block too. We're going to invent, we're going to do our own strawberry jam and sell it for $1 less. Here we have a company that is looking at this stuff. It's really simple. It's mung bean protein, and this other company is saying, hey, let's jump in. I can't remember the name of the company, nor have I tried it, but we will see. Oh, Kevin, you're still in rehab. So, hey, man, we send positive vibes to you and best wishes for continued speedy recovery, because I know you've been recovering pretty well. So keep us posted, bro. I really appreciate that you find this something that you like to do every Monday, man, and you really are. You're the best. You're here. I check my system. I'm like, wait, I'm not streaming because Kevin Ritchie's not there. So I'm so happy this has been part of your schedule. Oh, thanks, Scott. Okay, contains milk. All right, sure. What brand is that? I hate to keep going on about this, but this is why we're here, right? To talk about food and products and ingredients. What's the big brand of English muffin? Thomas's or something, or some. Interesting. Let me know what brand that is. I haven't had like a mainstream English muffin in years. I every couple of years I get the ones from the Sprouted people. I forget what company that is. I love that company when I do eat bread, which is rare. I get all my carbs from beer and vodka. But had a little bread today, which I don't often, but it was in the delicious Just Egg meal that Robin made. But anyway, there's this company that does these awesome Sprouted English muffins. And I know Thomas's, if that's the brand, Thomas's, I think, had a whole wheat one. So those are cool, if I remember. But yeah, it's been forever. The original, yeah, Thomas's English muffin, yeah. I think they do whole wheat, I remember. God, it's been forever since I had that. The original whole grain. There's a multigrain. How about that? Yeah, interesting. So Thomas is still around. Of course, right? How about that? All right. Let's see. Scott, you're overeating is just egg. Okay. You get 1 out of 2/3 of a bottle. Yeah, that's great. That's a big meal then. Yeah, that's a big 2/3 of a bottle. That you know what? That's about the size of like an omelet in a diner or something, right? To be fair, like a serious restaurant scrambled eggs or diner is half a plate, right? It's like they make that, half moon kind of a thing, half circle shape. If it's an omelet that they flip, so yeah, you're right, about a half a plate. Let's see. Wow. So the Thomas's plain has the dairy in it, huh? Interesting. All right, and I'm sure they have different ones. Oh, look, they got a good fact on their site. Are the mono and diglycerides in your product derived from animal or vegetable? Wow. And they say they are vegetable derived. Do you use any hydrogenated oil? No. Are your products kosher? Some. Interesting. Okay. And this is good. You've launched a nice little topic here because now I want to see, do all of theirs have dairy? And we will be exploring that throughout the show. All right. Ezekiel. Yes, I think that's the brand, right? Yeah, they do sprouted things. Yes, exactly. That's one of the sprouted brands, but I like that one a lot. Kevin gets breakfast served as vegetable souffle and cottage cheese aside. Kind of hard when food is cafeteria. Yeah, and they bring it to your rooms. Ron says, try some. Yeah. Oh, Ron, that's hilarious, man. It's really funny. Eat some meat. Dude, those jokes were done in 1989. But okay. We'll eat some meat instead. What a zinger. Let's see. Okay, great. I'm caught up. Awesome. Well, let's go to the news. And actually, let me. Oh, hello, people on YouTube. There's always a couple people there. Thank you for being part of the madness. And while I say this is a diversion from the news, I'm gonna say a couple things about today's news. And some of the news is about really these not breakthrough illnesses, although I'm getting a bunch of messages about that. About these breakthrough products, these amazing new products. So, hey, it looks like 2 people looking on YouTube. Thank you for being there. Let's see. All right, we're all set there. So let's go right to a news item. Let's go. This is pretty amazing news. I'm just going to screen share. I consider, we can have a debate about this, but I think certainly it's high on the list. When you think about the fast food meat items of the world, and Kevin Ritchie, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you think about the kind of, I'm just in my head, just going over the years in my mind. I'm 56, so it's something that gets into your head, the marketing of this, when you're a very young child. I was a very young child in Chicago, and so I ate whatever. I ate chicken and beef and pork, and I remember loving these Polish sausages in Chicago. My dad would drive to this little cart, like a little truck, like a hot dog truck, like you have in New York, hot dog cart, whatever the right name is. It's not quite a stand or a truck, but the ones that New York City is famous for. And Scott, living in New York, in Chicago, you might know these, but this guy would always park at the end of one of those bridges that go over the river in the middle of downtown Chicago. And I remember we would cross the bridge, and he'd be right at the end of the bridge, and we would just pull up right behind this guy, and my dad would get these Polish sausages, and they were just juicy and fat and spicy. That's the important thing. We're from the Caribbean and love spicy food, and I had spicy food as a child. So the spice is what I remember, and I can remember fennel seeds. I didn't know what those were, but, and so I thought about things later that actually what makes a lot of meat products, very desirable is the plant products in them, right? The onions, the garlic, the fennel, the thyme, the rosemary, right? If you think about it, there's very few products that is just 100% animal flesh. Yes, there are some. There's steak tartare, and there's even ceviche, raw fish kind of stuff it's made tasty from the onions, the garlic, the vinegar, all plant products. But there's a few things, absolutely. There's African tribes that eat raw meat and use raw blood. Absolutely. I'm not saying there's not raw animal with nothing else added. But even sashimi, right? The fish part of the sushi dish, because sushi is really the rice and the pickled vegetables and stuff. Even the fish, you are dressing it with a soy product, soy sauce, tamari. You are using a horseradish variety called wasabi. You are using pickled ginger. Plants. So something I want to offer up for people to think about, that almost always we make dead flesh better by plantizing it. So that's just something to kind of think about when people give you a hard time about the product I'm going to point out here, or in general. It's a common topic. Why do vegans want something that looks like a chicken nugget? Because maybe they liked chicken nuggets. This is so simple. It's incredible how often I hear it. Those aren't my favorite foods. I haven't even had any of these things from fast food places, and I don't intend to. But it's so facile to me. Why do vegans eat things like chicken nuggets? Because they liked chicken nuggets before, right? They liked them until they made the connection that there is slaughter, torture, poisoning, entrapment, just hellish conditions, not to mention experimental drugs and vaccines and steroids and hormones and things that are put into these animals. So once you realize that, you now have some cognitive dissonance. You love this thing. You love the crunchiness. You love the snap of the bread, again, the plant products. You love the herbs and the spices, again, plant products. And then you love, yes, the texture and the chewiness and the mouthfeel of the flesh that's so far from the flesh. It's been ground and denatured and deboned and all that stuff. And for some people that quit meat, they really want to have that texture here and there. So it exists. So get off our dicks. I mean, what? It's an amazing thing how important that is to meat eaters, to point that out as if it actually means anything. And also, it ignores the end result, which is if we can environmentally get this thing back to a more agrarian, more farm-oriented economy, if we can get more crop rotation and kind of proper farming, right? We don't want to go right into what's the word? Just strip farming, kind of overuse of the land sort of stuff. You want to do this in a proper way with all the mistakes we've learned in the Dust Bowl years and all that. You don't want to grow the same crop every year. You want to have years that there's nothing growing. You want to have crop rotation. This is what's important too as we look at pivoting our planet back to more of a plant oriented economy. But all of these things are part of why I think it's okay to be looking at these replacements for factory farm CAFO, right? The automated farming operations. Kevin. Okay, great. So Kevin, this is exactly what I'm talking about. the McDonald's thing. So yeah, folks, and I'll start from the McDonald's website. And I was bringing up before, and I was reminiscing about being a child because when we're children in the USA and actually the planet, right? Most of the planet with any kind of modernization, often, not always, there's often a McDonald's. Those fucking golden arches, man. I remember the first time I was in, was it Poland or Romania or Bulgaria? One of those three. I think it was one of the, Bulgaria. Oh, and I was there. I was on tour with Al Di Meola. And I remember we got off the plane, and I think it was a plane, not a train. We got off and we got into the care of the local promoters. We're in this car, in this van, and we're going. And Al says right away, after the hellos and everything, Al says right away, we're on the way to the hotel. He goes, is there a McDonald's on the way? And the guy goes, yeah, kind of a little puzzled, like, you just came from America, dude. But Al explains, he goes, let's go there. We got to get apple pie. What? And he explained to me that at that time, I don't know if they brought it back, McDonald's had stopped selling those apple pies. The little packet is in a little sleeve and you ate the apple pie. I had forgotten all about that. And they got rid of it because some crybaby had burnt their mouth. And since we are fucking crybaby central, they sued or, I don't know, complained or cried or moaned. And McDonald's stopped doing these apple pies because they were notoriously hot, right? That was fucking hot lava if you ever had them. I hadn't had one in 20 years at that point. So we went, and amazingly, no animal products were in them. Not even that amazing. It's a pie, so, at least in the ingredients over there, which is very common, American ingredients, same product in Europe is often a few points different. But I remember we stopped and got these, and they were great, delicious. I mean, that's one of their home run products, the old apple pie. So maybe someone could tell me, if you go to McDonald's sometimes, if they have the apple pie. All that to just say, what a brand, what an internationally famous, iconic sort of a thing. And the McDonald's Big Mac is just, wow. It's iconic, right? The Big Mac, that's the one. That's kind of the top. That's the cupola. That's the tip of the pyramid. That's the capstone. Thank you, Eric Falgard. That's the capstone of the meat kind of, where meat meets capitalism and symbolism and Americanism and apple pie and the flag and, the Big Mac. I mean, it's right. It's the thing. Even the Whopper was like, that's Pepsi to our Coke. Sorry, it's okay, but Big Mac. And so to have this week where the Big Mac plant version comes to America is simply amazing. This burger has been available around the world, and those of you who stop by this show often, I talked about it months ago when it arrived in. Seems to be a trend, actually. All these companies are trying stuff out in Asia and in Pacific countries. They kind of roll this stuff out. There's been a half dozen news items from Starbucks, right? Starbucks has been doing the Beyond Pork, right, in some of their breakfast products. There's a big chain in China, 500 strong chain, which admittedly in China could be one city, right? So let me just say, I don't know if it's big or small, but 500 locations, which would even be kind of moderate in the USA. But this chain had the Beyond Pork and was doing gangbusters with it. So there's a thing happening in some of these other countries faster than here. McDonald's and Cadbury and Hershey and what was the other one? Slipped my mind. Many of these companies are trying stuff in England, in Holland, and all these European countries where there's far, far more market share for vegan and vegetarian foods. So they had tried this McPlant burger overseas. We talked about it here. So here we go. Here's the headline. Big deal. October 14th, just 4 days ago, that they are starting to roll it out in 8 restaurants. And this starts in November. So they're using Beyond Meat. So I think that's great because it kind of makes it more open source, right? It's no longer this proprietary thing. They literally, what a sea change, right? Because they literally are using a product that you can say, you know what, I'll just buy my own. I'll get these at home, get a better bun, use my own organic tomatoes and lettuce and pickles and make my own, which people are doing anyway. But so it kind of does a number of things. It kind of gives people an exact knowledge of what they're eating, right? Because they're eating this patty. And Beyond Meat has made a big announcement about this too. But also, it means you can kind of do it on your own. And it just kind of really floats the boat for Beyond Meat too. I tell you, I'm not a stocks guy, but it's probably well along the way. But Beyond Meat stock must have just went up. So there you have it. Where and when, starting in 2 weeks, November 3rd. And it's amazingly in some pretty, red meat parts of the world, parts of the country, except for just the last 2. You're talking right in the heart of Texas. And then Cedar Falls, Iowa. 2 places in Louisiana. And then 2 places in California. So very interesting choices. Everything's in the south and southwestern quarter of the U.S. quadrant. So that's interesting. It's not New York City. I find that interesting. It's not Chicago or L.A. or, Seattle. But be that as it may, again, and they confirm what I said too. They've had it running already in more progressive countries as far as plant-based marketing and sales. Sweden, Denmark, Netherlands, Austria, and the UK. I'm here to attest too. Going to those countries for almost 20 years, amazing the choices when you go into the hotel breakfast. I haven't been to Sweden or Denmark. I've been to Norway, but I've been to all the other places: Netherlands, Austria, UK, and especially they're all about as good. Netherlands, Austria, Germany, UK, unbelievable, and that's a real test. Like, what are the hotels doing? Because hotels don't give a fuck. But in hotels, you go down to the lobby for breakfast. In any of those places I just said, there is whole grain bread. I mean, these beautiful dark bread with like sunflower seeds and rye and stuff in it. Looks like you just made it. So high quality bread. If you do eat eggs and cheese, high quality eggs and cheese. Sometimes it even says, no hormones eggs, and no hormones added eggs and stuff. Of course, eggs naturally have hormones, but no hormones added. You have bio is the word for organic there. So it'll say bio yogurt, bio this and that. So even the dairy products in a hotel lobby are organic. I mean, this is like light years ahead, even though light years is a measure of distance. But the difference is staggering. And then right down the line, there's all kinds of other. You can get an omelet with whatever vegetables you want. There's a salad bar with all kinds of beautiful stuff. Often it says organic again. But often there's veggie sausages, kind of, vegan cheese. I've even seen once or twice, not as much. There's often a dairyless yogurt. That's quite common over there. And tons of, things that people don't actually think of as vegan, but they are. Oatmeal and, steamed prunes and, of course, half grapefruits and all those kinds of things that you would see in any good place over here. But just stuff you wouldn't, like miso soup and, even cooked vegetables and things. So all that to say, not a surprise that they tried out the McPlant in all these places first. So there you have it. Some big news there. too dehydrated. I've been not great on my water the past couple days. We will put this right here so I remember. Beyond Meat, of all the ones, you know, I think it's great because they make the pledge, no GMOs, no bioengineered stuff, and I think it's pea protein. I don't know if it's soy free, but they're using pea protein, which is fantastic. There's too much soy out there in a lot of these products, so that's very cool. So anyway, that's kind of some big news. And there's McDonald's. I mean, they still have the McRib. They're still going to have the other Big Mac and all that. There's no illusions here that they've become, the Moosewood cookbook. But it's an amazing step forward. I was talking to a friend earlier, and he was saying, yeah, but the meat eaters aren't going to buy that. This is going to be vegetarians. And I said, I respectfully disagree. The data is showing that the market is exploding in your Wendy's and your Arby's and now McDonald's, White Castle, all those, KFC. Every company now has some sort of meat-free, animal-free option. And it's actually carnivores who are driving this explosion in sales, right? That's who's mostly in those places. Us people who eat plant-based, right? It stands to reason. We're not going to go to Arby's quite often, but we do when we have to, with friends, or for me personally, when I'm on the road, that's the time that would happen. But I don't even go. That's time to sit in the van, if that's the only place that's at a stop, which almost never happens in 21st century America. But I couldn't tell you I know. Last time I was in a McDonald's, the most recent time was about 3 years ago, going to the cruise. We were working the Yes crew super early. It was like a 5 o'clock lobby call. Get in the van. So no breakfast, but they took us to McDonald's on the way, and everyone piled out and got breakfast. I got an orange juice and a coffee, I think. So, McDonald's, I'm not mad at them. They exist for a reason. But we're not going there. So the people who, at least in large numbers, the people who are driving this are actually the carnivores, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think what's happening is it's a demographic thing too. The baby boomers, people in their 60s now, who are now facing heart attacks in increasing numbers, heart disease, heart replacement surgery. I know probably 6 friends in that age group who have had heart issues. I got a friend recovering from a major heart surgery. They broke his chest open. I have another friend who had the balloon stuff where they put these balloons to get rid of the plaque. Yeah, that sounds like it'll work. Just presses the plaque against the side of the artery, and then blood can flow. But what? It's just gonna. So I have friends who've had heart attacks in the past couple of years. So we're not getting any younger. If I don't get my ass back into the gym, I'll have a heart attack. Knock on wood. Hopefully that's some ways away, but I do have to get back in shape. I'm in COVID shape right now. But I think you're tracking. There's millions of people in this massive demographic who are concerned about their health right now, and that's who's trying these alternatives. It really is. I'm not making that up. You can read article after article. In fact, I'll put an article up that I just sent someone. I love reading market research and market trends, and there's this great website called Vegconomics, like vegetarian economics, something like that. Fantastic site because it's really kind of dry business articles, statistics, graphs, trends, just talking about this stuff from a global economics trade perspective and talking about different markets opening up. So that's fascinating stuff to me. I as you know, used to be in natural foods retail for almost 20 years. But when you look in that world, there are dozens of articles talking about, wow, Who's buying this stuff? I mean, from massive retailer, when the most massive retailer on earth is Walmart. When Walmart is selling out of things like tempeh and seitan sausages, and they have this what's it, Good Earth, Wild Earth, whatever that company is with those sausages. When they are selling insane amounts of that, when Walmart has their own brand now, great ideas. I've talked about this on the show. When Walmart has added these meatless kind of frozen entrees, very affordable, under $3 for like a frozen bag of like vegetables, rice, and this Gardein kind of seitan protein stuff. Something's happening, folks, and I love the meat eaters who get kind of mad at this, and they think that it's nope. Sorry, guys, this is here to stay, and you either find a way to just let it roll off your back, as you should. It's not affecting you. Go ahead, eat what you want. But they get so mad, right? Some of them just they freak out about this. Like it or not, this is a massive revolution, and I'm here talking about it every week. I spoke several months ago about the New York Times. I don't think it was a cover story. It might have been. I don't know. I saw it online. But the New York Times story about Brazil, none other than Brazil, one of the carnivore capitals on earth, having an explosion in people saying they're vegetarian, people buying and eating and preparing vegetarian food. Even the big Brazilian animal agricultural companies switching a chunk of their production over to plant-based meat replacements. That's fucking unbelievable. Brazil? Wow. China, which I mentioned before, half a dozen types of alternatives to meat, and it is an alternative, are exploding. So it's, this is kind of old news, but I like to keep tracking it. And so there's one more today on that. So let's go and catch up on some comments. YouTube people, where are you? Here it is. YouTube. Okay, yeah, no one commenting on YouTube yet. Sometimes YouTube is off the chain with folks. It was 2 weeks ago when Facebook was down. All right, so catching up. Oh, some great comments. All right, so Kevin said that, and right. So Kevin then said McDonald's meatless burger. So that's where I left off, and we're on a wavelength, bro. Spices and herbs make everything better. Yes, they do. There's a video link. And yes, vegetable diet and fiber does improve your bio-gut flora. Proven point. A blistering apple pie. Yeah, man, weren't they? Those motherfuckers were hot. I remember being a kid and you lost the top of your mouth once or twice. Oh my God. But yeah, you're right. More fresh pizza, right? You get burnt with that New York pizza. Damn. So okay, Kevin says the apple pie's back. Yeah, I kind of had heard that. Kevin, I'm sorry, Frank is saying don't go all coffee crotch lady tort reform. I know. I got into a debate about that the other day. So tell me your thoughts on that. You get burnt. You buy something that's sizzling hot. You ask for the hot coffee. You know the McDonald's coffee is super hot, and then you put it between your legs in the car and you drive off and you're burnt. Is it their fault? I'm walk me through this. I'm eminently convincible about anything if there's a real solid argument for it, but that one's tough for me. You knew it was hot. You know they have some of the hottest coffee anywhere. You put it between your legs, and then you move a vehicle so that it's a tough one for me. It just opens the door to so much stuff, though. This was too spicy. This was too salty. I had a heart attack a year later. There was too much hydrogenated oil in this. Where do we, right? So let me know what I'm missing on that. Ronald McDonald, Hamburger, and Grimace, right? That was all pretty scary. And yes, they were creepy. Mayor McCheese. Um, yeah, hot breakfast is always good. Yeah. Um, fried fruit pies. Yeah. Oso is here. What's up, my friend? It's been a while. A regular empanada of sorts. Well, some of the hand pie. Yeah, you're right. It's like an empanada. Also, I think you're here in Asheville still, right? Are you around? There's this lady. I think her name's Maria. She's at the farm market. She does these empanadas. Whoa, so good. Simple, of course. Literally peasant food, which is my favorite. But she's at the farm stands and she does all vegetarian tamales. She sells some mole and she's got empanadas and pusas. And I would say, I don't know, something like 12 out of the 15 items are vegan. And then a couple with, as she always says, little butter, little cheese. And I always gently bust her chops and say, if it's such a little bit of butter, then why put it? How about olive oil or sesame oil? And she's always, just a little bit. Then leave it out. and the people who love butter won't even fucking care. So, and you'll sell twice as many. Let's see. Deep fried pie, vegan. Okay, cool. Sharing some recipes. Awesome, y'all. Angioplasty. Yes, that is the, that's what it's called, the balloons. So Oso says, careful about Walmart sourcing. Of course. Built into, anytime I speak of these corporate places, I give caveat that, but I'll push back on you and say no. Gardein is from Canada, actually. So, the example I gave is Canadian, but I'm with you that there's definitely Chinese sourced things, but there is a way to vet. Let's really talk about this. When things arrive in the USA, no matter what they're labeled, and this is true about food and non-food items, we test things. We do it randomly. We don't test every item that comes in, but it's just like they're looking for drugs and they have an algorithm and they can't look at every container, but they have an algorithm and they have a random, and they stop drugs and they stop products that have lead paint in them and they shouldn't, and they stop products that are labeled organic and they're not. So I would argue that there is quite a vetting process. It's really easy to see if something's organic. You do any manner of tests, from sample tests and I would imagine gas chromatography even at this point can find the non-organic signatures, pesticide signatures, fertilizer signatures, things like that. So it's actually pretty easy to vet. There's also so much competition, and I learned this a long time ago. Here's what happens. A new brand pops up of organic broccoli, right? And it's in the stores. The other 6 companies that make organic broccoli go, what the fuck? Who the fuck is this? And they buy it and they test it. I remember years ago there was cases with a soy milk and then like a bean in a can or something where, yeah, people just think, oh, if I just slap the label organic on there, I get away with murder. Those folks did not realize that the USDA organic standard, while sure, rickety, just like everything in the U.S. government is, of course, but it's functional, right? It's not, by a long shot, nowhere as good as what the Dutch are doing or English regulations or something we can find. And you could go case by case. There's some shit we do better than some of these countries. But in this realm, the USDA and the organic standard and the organic protocols that really started in California and then slowly went state by state and somewhere in the 90s became national standards, they are actually pretty robust. So I would argue that something labeled organic. See, here's the other thing you got to know economically. Walmart is so huge that to fuck about, to fuck about with the product and know that it's just a matter of time that you're caught selling non-organic broccoli. The cost, the PR cost, and the money cost, the lack of trust, the loss of trust, I should say. It's just not worth it for them. It's just not worth it. They'll just get organic because at their scale level, they're paying far under what competitors are paying for non-organic. See what I'm saying? So, again, I'm not saying the system is infallible. Please don't translate it into that. Didn't say Walmart's perfect and never makes a mistake. Didn't say things don't slip through. But please hear what I actually did say, which is there's actually a pretty robust regulatory chain for our food. It's in a really bad regulation country at this point. It's one of the last threads. Because it hits people right away. Salmonella outbreaks, E. coli outbreaks, while they still happen, would be rampant if our regulatory situation dropped much more than it already has. So, and I didn't even touch, the rest of it, other to say that I agree with you. But Whole Foods 365 brand, yeah, that's the one I was thinking of for the organic broccoli. So again, I respectfully argue, yes, there's a way to vet, and it's vetted quite a bit. And there's, finally, I'd say on fresh produce, all of us here eat organic produce. You can tell, right? When you bite into organic apple, it's not waxy. It's not mealy. It has that flavor, sweetness. Every once in a while, I'm on the road or I'm somewhere backstage, and you want to grab an apple or a pear, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. Is this what people eat? No flavor. The texture's weird. Your hand is slimy from the wax almost. You can moisturize. So there's that aspect too. Organic broccoli just pops. It's got an actual flavor. So yeah, mole, yeah. Oh, so you know this woman, right? Maria. So you are in Nashville. Yep, she's awesome. Yes, West Asheville Tuesday Market, exactly. Not far away. Sharon says first non-dairy milk. Health Valley Soy Moo, yeah, that's going way back. Health Valley was heroes. They were great. I think they're still around. Taqueria Munoz. I got to check that out. We keep hearing good things about them. Also, tell me about the Taqueria Munoz vegetarian vibe. Like, if that's something you've asked, like, are the refried beans without lard? Are the black beans without lard? Do they have? Tell me about that, because Mexican food is some of my favorite and some of the easiest to do vegan. But every once in a while, you find a place that does a bunch of lard, but really not, right? I mean, I've gone to a bunch of places in Nashville, and it's just not. Lard has kind of, frankly, sesame oil and peanut oil are just as traditional once you're in Mexico and go to a couple different places. Talking about Walmart. Went to Walmart last night. First time in 6 years. Yeah, it's got all this stuff. Yeah, clothes. That's the thing. It's got everything there. Yeah. You go to Mom's Organic. They didn't have the veggie steamer. Yeah. I love. Yeah. Yeah, and Mom's Organic, I love. My mom, that was her organic too. She loved that store. She lived in the Silver Spring, Maryland area. Now, this is another interesting area, and then I want to jump to another news item. I love the small places. Who doesn't? Because as progressives, it's one of our things that small is better. But here's the problem. Do you know anything about the politics of Moms? Really, do you know about the owners? Are they anti-Semitic? Are they anti-LGBT? Are they Republicans who vote against your views? Are they far-right Christians? I don't know. I'm asking. But see what I'm saying? Small business owners can hide a lot more shit. And we've really seen that in this last couple decades. We had independently owned coffee shop in town. Also, you might have been here for this. The I forget what they were called over there by the library on Haywood. But hey, they were so hip, and it wasn't Starbucks, man. I'm going there, and I went there a few times. It was cool, and then a big issue blew up where the two guys were running this crazy scheme where they were not catfishing, but playing this internet game with all these women on dating apps where they were dating different women, sleeping with them, taking pictures inappropriately, and grading them, grading their bodies, grading their sex, grading the sex acts, and playing a game with each other. And they had like charts, and they would like, so women would come in, they would flirt with them and act like they really were concerned about hanging out with them and getting a cup of tea or something. The whole thing was this insane, masochistic, toxic male, insane, I have to say insane twice. It blew up. The whole town, the place shut down. They were pariahs. My point being, and it's not the only story I could level. I grew up decades being like anti-corporation. I'm going to the small places. And then when I saw a couple things with like racists who own pawn shops, or people like this who own small places, or other. I know someone with a couple health food stores in let's just say in the Northeast, who's not really a great person on worker rights and pay, and he's right on the edge on women's rights too. But it's a small business. So I just offer up that maybe we're in a different era now, because again, Target, Starbucks, Walmart, what has happened to them all in the past decade? Because of Twitter, because of social media, because of these things, the scrutiny is unfucking believable, right? They've got a spotlight 24/7. And so if you notice, any one of those companies stumble, they just trip a little bit. Bam! It's on Twitter. They are boycotted. They are shamed. There's articles. So I'm just offering that we're in a different place, especially the last decade, where these companies have realized, you know what? It's a much shorter road to just offer some daycare and some education packages and some healthcare packages, and to raise the minimum wage. That's all of which Walmart has done recently. Walmart starts at $12 or $15 an hour in some of their positions. Someone was telling me. And even more if you come in and you're like a computer expert and you go into electronics. So they've just realized that it's way cheaper to just fucking do social justice, which is what we've been arguing for decades, right? That's been Bernie Sanders' argument for decades. It's much cheaper to pay your workers correctly. It's much cheaper to offer health care. The 1% doesn't have to give up much to have social justice and equality for all the rest of us. And I'm going to fight for this forever, even after I'm gone. I love that man. But he's right. And we've been kind of, it's just funny. I think it's just funny how the Twitterverse and now the virus, COVID nightmare for almost 2 years, has forced so many of these companies to do the fucking right thing. Isn't it great? So anyway, lots of moving parts there. It's interesting. Benny, what's up, my friend? Yes, lard is gross. So also says Munoz is traditional. So again, though, traditional doesn't mean meaty, again, I hope I'm not sounding argumentative to you, bro. I just want to say that we use these words, but I thought so too. Then I went to Mexico and I realized Mexico, like China, like the USA, has regions, right? So the Guadalajara type of dishes are different than the Oaxaca dishes, are different than the dishes way in the south by the border, are different than the dishes near the water where it's more seafood, it's more. the dishes near the more deserty areas have more dependence on these kinds of things. So I find that very interesting. And I find that there are areas in Mexico, absolutely, where it's more lard. Yes, absolutely. More manteca and butter and things like that. But then there's other regions where they've had more Asian influence, for instance, when I'm talking 200 years ago, where they use more sesame seeds and sesame oil and stuff like that. So I was blown away to learn this about Mexico. Finally, there's a vegan chain not chain, she's got 2 stores, I think, in San Francisco. It's a vegan Mexican place. And I ate there once, and I was fascinated. What's it called again? Gracias Madre. I was fascinated to find out. I met the owner one time I was there. I think I went twice. And she's got all these posters on the wall and in the pamphlet, and she explains that the part of Mexico she's from has a rich and ancient vegetarian history. It's just the way it is. So I think, again, we got to keep digging and finding out that the narratives we have about stuff. China is another one, China, you got 30 different, that's probably a small number. 30, though, is around the number I remember reading. Different cuisines. We know about Szechuan, and we know about 2 or 3 other ones, but there's so many, right? A vast country. And some of them are vastly different. Vastly different. Some of them are, again, like I said, have different types of fats they're using. Some of them are heavily seafood. Some of them are heavily, beef, pork. Some of them are more chicken and other birds. And some of them, quite wild to the Western mind, is a bunch of other animals, cats and dogs, sure, and beavers and squirrels and whatever mammal there is. Some regions, it's just what you have. But also even the types of vegetables, the types of spices changes. So all that to say, when we say traditional Mexican, it depends. And so I would still go and ask them. But it's funny, though, because I'm asking you because I've got like a bunch of vegetarian friends who said, yeah, Muñoz, taqueria Muñoz. And I always ask, though, because people have varying levels of how strict they are. And some people might be fine with butter, and I'm not. Some people might, but anyway, I'm going to check them out. And I know on Asheville Herbivore, some people have talked about it. Also, any place in Asheville has the pressure of it being Asheville, right? Where once you've got 1,000 hippies who've come in and non-hippies and said, hey, do you have tofu, man? You're ultimately going to get it at some point. Sharon says, companies are trying to hide things you're discussing. Yeah, again, I'm not making this shit up. I'm obsessed with maybe because I was a retailer. Again, I always come back to that. I'm not obsessed, but I look a lot at business trends and stuff happening in business. And I'd like to, just always stay up on the social justice part, right? When are you motherfuckers going to pay the people who are doing the work? That's one of my driving forces. It's a socialist plank in my platform. I'm not going to apologize for it. Socialism works. Who's here to debate socialism? Come on. Socialism works. And my first question for all y'all who hate socialism is, what charity are you signing your Social Security checks over to? Because I don't want to hear your fucking bullshit about socialism if you're going to take your socialism checks, okay? That's it. The argument ends there. If you're not going to go and have the conviction of your words and give up the part of socialism that's kind of the number one thing in the USA, the Social Security program, then I don't want to hear about it. And then my second question is, did you send your kids to private school or did you attend private school? And we go down the line. So one of the aspects of a socialist, a sprinkling of socialism, because we're not going to be a pure socialist country, but one of the sprinklings is fair distribution of the wealth. If your company is posting trillions in profit, there better not be anybody that's got to be on social aid down at the bottom of your company. There just shouldn't. You're a douchebag if you're posting billions and trillions of profits per quarter, which some of these companies do. And you got people who are scraping, who can barely make rent, doing the stuff on the ground floor, right? Whatever it might be, the cleaning of the floors, the killing of the chicken, the chopping of the lettuce, whatever it is. So that's one of my goals too, is to look at ways that we can quickly get to that. And quite frankly, we should start with the companies that hire the most people. Duh, right? If you get them to change, bam, you've suddenly affected a couple 100,000 employees, not 7, right? So those are just some thoughts. And this is all food, folks. Our food is our 2 or 3 times a day political act. If you think about it, it certainly can be thought of that way. Simple, yeah, great restaurant, simple, and well, once you get into other types of food, this town is amazing, right? We got Plant, we got the West Side grocery, we've got the bakery right next door, tons of vegan options. We've got even that mainstream diner on Haywood over by Bottle Shop. Did you see that? That diner across from Organic Mechanic, across from Rocky's Chicken Shack, not Rocky's, but the other Chicken Shack. That diner has a vegan breakfast now. Holy shit! Again, so Asheville, you throw a rock and there's vegan. There's a new vegan place that just opened downtown. There's Susie's place, Gypsy Queen, right? Both the truck and the place where I've seen you is 95% vegan, right? And vegetarian. All the soups, most of the entrees. Of course, they do have chicken. Once in a while, they do a lamb dish. But across the board, it's this wonderful Middle Eastern food, right? Her other place, Simple is the one you're mentioning. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what's great. I mean, Berry, I never get the name right. Berry Bim Bomb, whatever that place is called. Berry Bon. Every time I look, more vegan stuff. In fact, we tried their vegan fish and chips the other day. Wow, I've only had fish and chips a couple times in my life. I just hadn't gone to England before I was vegetarian. But enough to know, wow, are you sure? But it was jackfruit. You know that stuff, jackfruit? So I could tell once you bite into it. But jackfruit's perfect for like a flaky, fishy texture. And again, as I was saying before, it's a bunch of plant products that make fish and chips part of the picture. The chips are all plant-based. It's usually done in a vegetable oil. The breading, which is pretty significant in fish and chips, is breading. So it's some sort of grain. There's garlic and onions and spices and herbs and all this stuff. If you're in England, you also got the mushy peas, right? Oh, those are delicious. And this one wasn't quite complete without that. Mushy peas are just green peas that they mush. Didn't try hard on the name there. And they either serve them to you on the side in a little cup, or if you're lucky, they mush them up, and then they're deep fried. They're flash fried. And so it's this crunchy kind of patty of green peas. Oh, with like garlic and stuff in it. So yeah, really, what an amazing town. I mean, we have, I could go on and on with, Laughing Seed, and a place that just won one of the 50th best places in America is here. Chaipani, Indian place. Again, any Indian place, and this is likewise 70% vegetarian, something like that. So yeah, amazing plant-based town. I hate a lot of stuff about our stupid town as we become a tourist trap, but I love the vibe of organic and farm markets and plant-based. So, okay. You're right, so grading and degrading them. Exactly. We got to grade these motherfuckers. And I love Twitter for that. You slip, you fall. It's good and bad, but one of the good things is quickly reporting on malfeasance and dishonesty in companies or politicians. Okay, so Sharon says, Green Earth, okay. Haha, yeah, Green Earth. It rings a bell, but I can't remember if I went there. Oh, you're saying had a similar thing, right? Running deer while he was running after women. He was, I'm running after you, dear. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. So, to my point, exactly. And I'm sure people would shop at Green Earth, right? And not Whole Foods because I'm not supporting the man. Well, uh, and I hate to make fun of that person. I am that person. I don't want to support the man, but it's just fun. But you get older and you realize shit is complicated. There's a lot of spinning plates. That's why a lot of y'all know. Be my witness. What's my number one advocacy? Grow your own fucking food, whatever you can, right? Grow your own food. If you can grow half the vegetables you're getting, if you can have some tomatoes, some cukes, some peppers going, if you have the right climate, you can get some kale and some greens going. If you can get some green beans and some protein sources, wow, you kind of can cover a big chunk of your situation. If you're lucky and you can grow some ground gourds like watermelons and squashes and things, wow, you really can get a lot of your food. And if you're lucky and you live in Florida or Texas or some of these other states, you might have fruit trees. You might be able to, you have fruit trees elsewhere, but I mean citrus particularly. And if you're somewhere in New York State, I have friends with apple tree in their yard. So that's my number one advocacy. Can you just grow it yourself if you can? A lot of y'all are living in apartments and stuff. I know that, but a lot of y'all in apartments have pointed out, yeah, I grow half a dozen items. So that's the first line of response. The second is to support local things when you can. So preaching to the choir here. Y'all know that. It's just good to reinforce it to all of our friends. Thank you all, Bernie. Bernie's a hero. So my diction is spot on. Well, thank you. I love that man. He's just telling the truth. How about when they did Bernie on SNL though? Now that was the shit. I think it was it Kate McKinnon did him? Man, that was fucking great. She just knocked it out of the park. I think it was her. I forget. So Alice Bagg and her spouse Greg. I don't know about this, but that's great. And so they're immigrants to Mexico. I should do a whole show about the word expat because expat is when white people move somewhere. Isn't that interesting? They're expats, man. And they're not immigrants. Why not? Why aren't they migrants when they go to another country? Everyone comes here, though. They're a migrant or an immigrant. Isn't that funny? So I say let's just raise the bar for everyone. What I've been doing is when I see someone who's apparently from Central America or I know they are, or Nigeria or somewhere, I say, oh, look, there's some expats who are working on my neighbor's lawn. They're expats. And it's great because it sparks a discussion. What do you mean expat? Well, why aren't they expats? They've been expatriated from their country. But I will check that out. Yeah, vegan food. And I'm here to say, wow. And I've said it here, vegan food in Mexico City. Wow, I was floored. I knew there'd be some, but I was blown away. It was stunning is the word. How many choices we had and how quick and easy and cheap it was. So yeah, you told me you had a food place. Yeah, bro, 20 years ago. Well, I hope you do that again, but yeah, 20 years ago would have been tough, right? Well, it was. I didn't know that. Now that you say that, I remember, though, that you mentioned somewhere. But it's a different town now, of course. And 20 years ago, or 19, whatever it is, almost 20 years, I remember coming here amazed at the place. I was a musician just coming here at that point, and I loved it, which caused us to move here. But 2002, we would go right to French Broad, which was kind of the main place. There was Green Life and French Broad, yeah. So you raise a great point. I don't think there was any other health food stores. Was there? Please correct me if I'm wrong. Definitely there wasn't Whole Foods, right? And which essentially we have two of now because they bought Green Life. But there wasn't one on the west side. You tell me, but I don't think there was another one, those two. And there was only Laughing Seed, if I remember, because I used to. That was close enough to Stella Blue, where we used to play, which is now Ashland Music Hall, that we would run over there. But yeah, sometimes a business, the place, the time, it's not the time, you know. Yeah. So that's right. Socialism includes all kinds of stuff. Exactly. Fire departments. Although a bunch of fire departments are now privatized, which is very problematic also. Yeah. It's a stupid idea. And has houses have burned down. There's a story in Tennessee where they tried that bullshit. Also says if people make more money, they'll in turn buy from the company trying to squeeze pennies. Yeah, that does happen sometimes. But banks offer clever investment devices, spend profits on instead. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to change. And that's what I've been talking about. Reform for these companies. Spreading the wealth. We've had programs like this in Vermont for years. Look at my friends Ben and Jerry. Cleverly, their company is called Ben and Jerry's. And they have done some amazing stuff for workers. You go take a look. You know, but one of the places I practice, or you just soak it up. You know, I do some voices. But Bernie's, have you all seen, they released these about 6 or 8 years ago. 6 years ago, I think. It was in between his two runs. But when he was the mayor of Burlington, he would go and talk to constituents. He would just go with a film crew. He'd go down to skate parks. He went to the mall a bunch of times. There's a bunch of clips that are apparently at different times. He'd go just talk to people. It was just, how are you? I'm Mayor Sanders. How's your life going? How's your job? What are you doing? What do you do? You're a student. And he would do all this kind of really friendly stuff. And people would be, oh, good. There's a pothole, or, you know, I'm trying to get daycare or whatever. And he was great. He would take note of stuff, and he would legitimately follow up on it. But that was great because you got to see the real Bernie, people randomly coming at him, asking questions. If you haven't seen that, folks, look that shit up. The other thing I mentioned to someone the other day, and I realized a lot of people don't know this, Bernie's brother was an elected official in England. Yeah, he was a council member. I forget the exact term, but yeah, Bernie's brother, older brother, he's no longer in office, but he still lives in England. Has lived in England since around 1970, and yes, English citizen, got elected, and socialist like Bernie, which most politicians in England are essentially socialist. If you really are honest and look at the dozen items that 14 years of education, affordable, comprehensive mass transit, comprehensive health care that's provided to citizens, taxpayers, on and on and on. Daycare, paternal leave, maternal leave, care for our elderly. What a crazy idea. Wow, taking care of our parents and grandparents. How wacky and left-wing that is. This is what Republicans are saying right now as we talk about this funding bill. They're mad that stuff like that is in, So these things are normal in a UK, in a Netherlands, a Germany, an Iceland, an Argentina, a Uruguay, a Paraguay, a Japan, an Australia, around the globe, in Israel, in Nigeria, and many other countries, in Africa, in Asia, in South America, in Europe, Canada, Mexico. It's pretty normal to provide the basics for your citizens. I'm sick and tired of the blathering that this is some crazy idea. And food's at the heart of it. Again, I want to keep bringing it right back to food, because the people who make our food, cook our food, prepare our food are kind of, getting a shitty deal. And the deal is changing, though. So let's go back to some great comments, actually. Great discourse. I love that people are giving me some controversial things. Y'all are awesome. Oh, yeah, let's check YouTube because, again, I always... here we go. Quiet today on YouTube. Okay, that's cool. Hey, I'm fine with that. Indian, yes, thank you. Also, I was going to mention that. It was right on my mind when I mentioned Gypsy Queen. We wanted to film something and do a little special on this new Indian grocery, but we forgot. Yeah, we went the day after they opened. Pretty cool, you know. As a retailer, I had my retail glasses on and I was looking at some stuff. Wow, they dedicated a whole aisle to grains and rice. I thought that was interesting. And I'm thinking a lot of them were large size bags, 5, 10, even 20-pound bags, maybe bigger. Probably some restaurants, right, are going to come in because here's a source now of very affordable basmati rice and jasmine rice and different grades of brown rice. So that's pretty cool. And then all kinds of other grains. I got a frozen, like a chickpea curry, sambar kind of thing. Wow, absolutely delicious. Do I have a picture of it? Again, frozen food, yeah, have it a couple times a week. Sometimes not for months. I mean, it's just very random. But I think it's fine. Sometimes I don't want to fucking cook. What? So nice that there's good options, you know. So I thought I took a picture. But yeah, I had bought some vegetables, bought some hot peppers, bought some cilantro. They have some nice vegetables. We got some other spice mixes and things. So overjoyed to have an Indian restaurant in our, grocery in our midst. We really needed that. Everywhere I've ever lived in my life, there's been Indian stuff around. I come from a country that is slightly predominantly Indian. I have Indian blood. I have, on my mom's side, Indian ancestry. And as most people in Guyana, we're a mix of mostly African, Indian, and some European, some Asian, but some other Asian besides Indian. But so I grew up on Indian food. It's very important to me. Ayurveda and all those healing herbs. So awesome to see this place open. We were so happy to go in literally in their first 24 hours and support them. So thank you, Oso, for that reminder. And I think I'll do a thing on some show in the future, like a little video snapshot. But I definitely, on Asheville Herbivores, we should be talking about that. So thank you, Oso. Oso, you're feeding me some lines here today, bro. I like that too. Yeah, we agree. Grow your own, cook your own. Exactly. Every day we do something. Steaming and baking has been my go-to lately because I can walk away. I'm very busy these days. Seinfeld guy did Bernie, right? It was Larry David, right? Oh man, that was so fucking perfect. And I saw an interview with him. He's like, you know, well, we're both from Brooklyn. What can I say? So fantastic. Hey, Scott Buckner, what's up? Yes, Larry David. Yep. What's up, Scott? That's right. Y'all know each other. Scott Buckner. Wow, that's crazy. So expats keep nation of origin identity. Immigrants, some move here to leave that behind, take vows of citizenship. Yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, but some of the expats I know are actually there temporarily as migrant workers. So that's actually the one I was looking for. Not so much immigrants. You're right, because an immigrant is coming to become, you know, a local. I'm one of them. I believe you're one of them, right? Also, you're born somewhere else? Remind me. But I'm an immigrant. I'm a proud legal immigrant, and I advocate for the pride of legal immigration. I think it's a great thing. But you're right. So expats, migrant workers is what I'd love some people to call themselves, like people that go somewhere else and work. You're a migrant worker. What? Why? You know, but that conjures up grapes of wrath and brown-skinned people picking stuff. So, you know, I don't know. I just think there's some interesting stuff to unpack there. But again, I want to just raise all boats. So I say we start calling Um, and you raise a great point because you're making me clarify this. There's many people who come here from not so much Mexico anymore, right? Mexico, last I checked, has negative in terms of value, numerical values, not aesthetics, has negative immigration numbers. In other words, more people going back to Mexico. See, the Mexican economy has been great the last 20 years, and compared to where it's been, it's going great. Legalizing many drugs has dropped a lot of the gang situations. A recent decision where Mexico is not going to take the GMO American corn. Did you all see that? This is another food news item. Mexico is not taking our bullshit, cheap GMO corn. Did you see that? Which is explosively good for Mexican corn farming, right? So all these things are changing in Mexico economically. And Mexico also does a lot more manufacturing now, a lot more trade with Asia. So the economy is better. People are staying in Mexico. People are going back to Mexico. So it's interesting. But there's many people still coming through Mexico, which Mexicans protest against, by the way, at the southern border. So you have Costa Ricans, El Salvadorans, Panamanians, even people coming across Panama Canal from Colombia, from Venezuela, coming up. And a lot of them come here to work temporarily. They just want to work, do it for a couple of years. They know it's a great way to make serious money compared to where they were. And that they know there's a real great infrastructure to send the money home. And then they leave after 5 years. This happens all the time. So those should be expats, right? Because they're keeping their nation of origin identity, which is what you said. And they're not really interested in becoming citizens. That's for sure. Right? They just are working under the under the bar. So interesting stuff. And the reason I'm spending so much time with it, folks, is economic justice starts with what does a country pay the people making the food, growing the food, cutting the food, picking the food, preparing the food, serving you the food. It's interesting, right? Big difference. I love what COVID has done to this. I love it. I love it. These restaurants that are now on the run because they're bullshit, abusive, antiquated, atrocious, rapacious, colonialist, classist business model has been exposed. Paying somebody $5.13 an hour plus tips. No. You're riding on their back. You have a bad business model if you can't pay them properly. Sorry. Close your restaurant. Sorry. And that's what's happening. Yeah, people are like, I'm not going back to work. And the Republicans and the right wing likes to blame unemployment. But now that unemployment's largely gone, people are still not going back. They're like, yeah, I went to school. Or I cashed in my Social Security 3 years early and I'm learning painting and photography. What? I don't need to do this. Or they've moved, right? They've moved from high-cost areas into lower-cost areas and realizing, I can do some other jobs and survive really well. I love it because the people who grow, pick, prepare, kill, serve your food need to do better. And they do in countries that do a better job at this. There's countries where they don't even understand tips. They're like, what do you guys tip for? That waiter has 2 years of college being paid for and health care, and their mom doesn't worry about diabetes drugs, and they're making the equivalent of $20 an hour. Well, you Americans are funny. So that's the world we're in. Larry David and Bernie are cousins. Get out. I got to do the Elaine Bennis shove on that. Oh, so you kidding me? Come on. Are you serious? Give me a link to that. Larry David and Bernie are cousins. That's awesome. Well, there you go. Well, right, as we all are. But okay, I wouldn't be surprised because they're both in Brooklyn, right? And they look like cousins, so Or when I say he's my cousin, I mean cousin. Um, let's see. Let's see. Okay. Oh, so you were born in the USA. Okay. European, German, Hungarian, and native Yaqui. Wow, I love that, my bro. That is. I just love wild combinations like that, and that's pretty cool. And some very interesting uh, uh, um, parts of the world there put together. So that's awesome. Thank you for your history there. I love finding out who people are. It's not politically correct these days, is it, to ask people? And I know there's a fine line there. Where are you from? Right? I know I have Asian friends who get that, and then they say San Diego, but where you really from? So once someone tells you, like that's it. That's where I'm from. So Belinda Carlisle has a place in Mexico City. Okay. Oh, like a vegan place? All right. That's great. That's really great. Yes, cheaper rent in all these places. So let's go to another news item. This is really awesome. Let's see. Oops. Let me get rid of this. Messages coming in. And I want to talk about Colin Powell, because that's an interesting. I mixed on it, but he was a hero and on some levels, but he sucks on other levels. Let me get this news item, and let's stick with some food here. Is my audio okay? Check. People sending me conspiracy shit, man. Y'all should see, man, the shit I get, and it is shit. I know last week we had we had Mike Dillon. We had someone who actually caught COVID, double vaxxed, and how he's been doing great with it. And we talked a little bit about that, like the health of the person. Okay, great. Here it is. So I just wanted to share this too because you know what? I'm not putting enough links in. So this is another interesting news story. Just in that, I always do a little segment. It's almost like I have segments on this show. It's very informal. But my segment on big companies doing a move that blows my mind. I don't know about y'all, but when I think about me as the 18-year-old vegetarian in 1983, 84, and going and looking around and getting an idea of like, wow, how available are things? Even the 28-year-old vegetarian in 1994 would be amazed to hear some of this stuff. So, kind of back to that point of these massive companies, Jack in the Box has their first plant-based burger also. They're doing Impossibles. That's interesting, and I love it. The other one's doing Beyond Meat. They're doing Impossible. I'm not as much of a fan of Impossible, but I'm a fan that this is happening. It's great. So here we go. We've got about 2 months. They're trying this out. 50 outposts in Phoenix, and they're doing the Impossible Burger. There you go. Why they gotta hit you $1 to $1.50 extra? See, that's where it's bullshit. It's like a penalty tax. What the fuck? Here, do something for the earth and your heart, but let's charge you more. It's like Starbucks with the upcharge for fucking soy milk. Really, guys? Soy milk is one of the oldest fucking products. 100 years almost. Well, no, hundreds of years if you go back to China and stuff. But in terms of buying it on the shelf in America, we're getting close to 100 years. The time of Jethro Kloss and all that stuff. And they're still charging. Anyway, despite that griping, great news. Jack in the Box, plant-based meat, yada, yada, yada. And right, last year they had the unchicken sandwich. And again, just a few little test markets, etc. Okay, so I'll put this link, but again, they bring up McPlant, so it's all kind of all kinds of a very cool movement. Let's look at a couple other things here. But first, let me give you the link here. Some people watching on Twitter. Hey, Twitter people, how are you? Thanks for tuning in there. So let's put this into the chat. Jack in the Box. There we go. So, there you have it, the Jack in the Box article. And then one more that was also pretty interesting. It was just a story of, and I had this as a topic for weeks now. I keep. What are your thoughts, anyone, on the lab-grown meat? Because this is really blowing up. Jane Goodall just got involved in some company, and this is this idea of these lab-grown meat, and that's very strange to me. I don't want it. Right off the bat, those are my views. I don't want something that's actually an animal product, but it's kind of made from a few cells and then it's duplicated. I mean, the process itself doesn't whack me out that much because you kind of do that with spirulina or, say, sprouts or something, right? Or many, mycology, actually. You do a lot of things like that where you just have a little bit and it just expands and grows. Kombucha, like old school kombucha, where you would do the mother at home and kind of make your own. It's all kind of similar. So the process doesn't wig me out as much. What wigs me out is it's actual biologically, it's flesh, and then it's grown. So tell me your thoughts on that. Would you do that? I'm in support of it because it's going to do, or it's going to help. There are no final solutions here. And we don't even like that phrase. But it's certainly part of the movement, right? Towards getting away from this rapacious factory farming situation that's just so destructive, so fast, and in so many ways. So this is blowing up. These meats, these lab-grown. So it's an interesting story, and I'll put up on the screen now. The USDA has been investing. I'm not sure what the. Yeah, I guess they're investing here. Where does this go? I'd like to see more about government agencies doing investments. I'm not sure how awesome that is. But hey, there's Cosmic Debris on YouTube saying, I will not be eating lab-grown meat. Exactly. For meat eaters, I'm sure less animals will be killed. There you go. That's kind of my slender support for it, right? Is that, all right, less animals slaughtered, which is really one of the goals here. So here's the article. Well, I put the link there. You can check it out at your own speed. But quite interesting that the USDA is involved. Again, I want to drill down and see what my tax dollars are doing, what your tax dollars are doing. But look at that, right? Looks just like a packet of ground beef. as some of these other things do, like right, Beyond Beef and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, USDA makes an investment. I see. So it's an award to universities. So that's kind of a tricky use of the word investment. As always, you got to go past the headline. Um, the USDA awards grants all the time, and they fund stuff all the time for decades. Different types of tomatoes and different. So that's not a big deal. Investment made it sound like they got some stocks and they own part of a company now. So no, they're awarding a grant essentially to Tufts University. Okay, that's fine. It's a research center. Fine. Certainly, that's exactly the mandate of the USDA. Ooh, mandate. Horrible word. The project aims to create a more resilient food system, developing outreach, education, yada yada yada. Oh, great. All right, that's pretty hip. Oh, I had a high pitched squeal in my mixer. Um, all right, so I just wanted to bring that up, and there's equally there's a real movement of this in Israel. In fact, there's this restaurant that opened. See if I can find it. Um, Actually, yeah, I'll go with the Guardian article just because that's fun. I'll put that in the chat. So I read this article a few months ago, but someone went to this restaurant in Israel, and you can jump from here and you can read about the restaurant. Um, what's it called again? Um, it's whatever it's called. But really interesting article. I saw a video of these people developing their stuff, their patties, and it shows how they're making it and stuff. And it's pretty cool actually because they're, you know, yeah, just creating a major alternative there. Um, so here we go. Israeli restaurant. I had some of the best vegan food in my life in Israel. I went to Tel Aviv on tour just once, and man, oh man, when I say it was spectacular. So there you go. I just put the article in there. Now let's get back to some of your comments. Okay, awesome. Awesome comments today, folks. And we still got one or two other news items. Let's see. Sorry, folks, dealing with some housekeeping here. So let's get back to great comments, folks. I can't say enough of how what a lively crowd it is today, and a smart crowd as always. All of you just with some great thoughtful things. Thank you so much. And so far, I am providing an alternative to the news, to the non-food news, right? Because we're not. I've mentioned COVID once or twice, but you know what I mean. We're not sitting here soaking in the nightmare that is Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweets or something. God, what a psychopath, right? Whew. Anyway, as long as the lab-grown meat doesn't flex its muscles or beat like a heart. Exactly. That's right, Kevin. That's it's not for me, like many things, but hey, cool. I'm glad you got it. Paul McCartney says that too, right? He says, "I won't eat anything with a beating heart." What does he say? Yeah, nothing with a face or a beating heart. Oh, so great. Yeah, if the yield of usable protein drives down the price, better than the low yield waste feed water. Exactly. Again, nothing's perfect. Exactly. Because there's packaging, right? These things have to move from place to place. Gasoline will be used. We get it. But if we can chip away, and you raised exactly the point that I hope people are seeing, thank you, that we're talking about the waste, the feed, which is millions of pounds, tons of soybean and wheat and other grains that are grains and legumes that are fed to animals, that are cycled into they're already good protein that we feed to an animal and get an inferior protein in terms of its all of the connections to it. So, yeah, all right. Looks like people are. Would you all eat it? I see some people saying they're in support of it. Would you eat that? I know one person said they're not going to eat it. And is going to stay with black bean burgers. Yeah, those are great. I don't really need much more. I've been eating these pea-based protein burgers a little bit lately. I tried a few from Gardein. Again, Canadian company started by Yves Potvin, the guy who had Yves back in the 80s. And those are good. Those are good. Okay, cool. Some good points there. Let's see if there's any other questions. Zach says he would try a lab burger. That's awesome. Well, Zach, as you've said, you're right on the periphery of you eat plant-based as much as you can, but you won't eat something, or you will eat something if it will save it being thrown out. I love that. It's that freegan, more coming from it from no waste perspective. I applaud that because it takes us to the same place, which is less factory farms. Jack in the Box. Sharon asks, what is the Impossible Burger made of? I can't say off the top of my head, but we can go look. But it's got a GMO product in it. Yeah, and I think it's one of those real interesting debates because it's not the soy or the peas. It's not the main part. The GMO part is like there's like a heme iron that they get from beets or something. So they genetically modify, I don't know, the bean sprouts or I don't know, some little part of it is not my favorite thing. I have had one in my life, maybe two. One, I think, because we were on tour and actually eating at this guy was the former chef for the LA Lakers. Talk about what a fucking nice house that guy had up in Ventura or somewhere in the Hollywood Hills or LA Hills. And he was this gourmet cook and he made all this stuff. And there was 2 vegetarians there. And so he made some stuff for us, some vegetables, but he said, do you want to try one of these Impossible Burgers? Yeah, sure. And it was okay. I didn't really see that it was any different than the ones from, Eve's or some of these other companies. But anyway, so yeah, here it is. They take DNA from soy plants and insert it into a genetically engineered yeast. So yeah, I remembered correctly. It was a yeast. They ferment the yeast and they get this heme, which is the iron, that's part of the flavor profile of meat, of red meat. It's heme iron. It's an animal iron, which again, like almost everything, the animal's getting it from plants. So once human brains figure out like what the animal's doing, we can do. There's nothing you can't do with plants. That's the T-shirt that I want to start selling for this show. Nothing you can't do with plants. You can feed yourself. You can get high. You can get drunk. You can put a poultice on. You can cure many ailments. You can relieve many ailments. Plants. The plants have a plan for the planet. Wow. What a beautiful quote. The plants have a plan for the planet. Terence McKenna. That's from the late, amazing Terence McKenna. And so smart of a statement. So there's genetically engineered yeast in the Impossible Burger. Now, if we're honest, any of us who drink beer and wine, genetically modified yeast has made its way into that industry pretty strongly. I don't think there's many beers that aren't using some of these modern yeasts. So it's a real... I've read tons about it, and I was an anti-GMO fascist, and I still kind of am. But I understand that at the fringes, there's these things, and that's not because I drink beer. I mean, because you could find beer that doesn't have it. But when you really, really read what they do to a yeast, you're talking such a benign, tiny shift and stuff. But I'm not a huge fan of it. And certainly, as you look at the scale of GMOs, I definitely don't want a genetically modified tomato that has fish genes in it, right? I don't want mice genes or human genes in a potato, all of which have been experimented with. I don't want a rice that has some other mammal gene to add vitamin A to it. It's not for me. So I think it's a case by case thing. So Impossible Foods, impossiblefoods.com. I urge you, if you're interested in that stuff, to read where things have gone. Yeah, plants have a plan for the planet. I wish I made it up, but Terrence McKenna, which, if any of you all have not seen that documentary on mycology, I forget what it's called, but really great, really great. And they mention him and his brother, and Paul Stamets is in it and stuff like that. All right, so Zach, thank you for launching those thoughts. Zach will have a lab burger. Okay. Kevin will eat lab-grown meat too. Okay, great. Again, I honestly salute y'all. It's let's see. Don't eat potatoes. Yeah. Okay, Zach, great question. What's the main argument against GMO? Fear of the unknown. No. So let me just set the stage a little bit. My involvement with GMO. I'm 56, and when I was around 26 is when I really deeply got surrounded by the GMO discussion. So this is 1991, 30 years ago. I was working at the George Street Co-op in New Brunswick, New Jersey. New Brunswick, New Jersey is also the location of Rutgers University. And Rutgers University had I think they still do, I think it's Nestle, one of these big food companies, as happens all the time, had a research center at Rutgers. And they were doing some of the early research and polling and trying to get a feel for would people eat this. So I'm very fortunate that because I was working at a natural food store very early on, somebody who was a researcher, worked at the university, and knew me from the store, said, and we had talks about food and ingredients and history. Believe it or not, 30 years ago, I used to be on the other side of a counter talking about much the same stuff. I was 30 years ago, folks, talking about vegetarianism, veganism, macrobiotics, herbs, plant-based medicines. I was talking about good fats, getting your fat profile better. I knew far less about fats, especially, or about any of these things, but I knew about them, and we talked about them. So this woman said, I'd like to interview you and go through some poll questions for this new stuff that we're doing, genetically modified. I was like, oh, okay, fine. I got to figure this out. And I did. She gave me a pamphlet, and I said, wow, okay. And even at that point, and this is to Zach, here's my first problem with it. The GMO cheerleaders, which is the industry, Genentech and Monsanto, and even one of these companies that makes one of the vaccines is really a GMO company. As a matter of fact, we're right on that borderline with mRNA vaccines. It's kind of right on that. There's nanotechnology involved. There's kind of GMO knowledge involved. It's a mix of all of these sciences, and RNA and DNA science is involved. But sticking with this, here's my first problem with GMOs. A disingenuous argument is made by the pro-GMO forces that it's no different than what's happened for 10,000 years in human agriculture. This is a very important point, and I don't see it argued as much, which are the ones I look for, and you know that about me. And I'll say that again. The GMO companies, the GMO advocates that you see on interview shows that pop up on Today or The View or something, they're very good about seeding the ground with this pro-GMO thing for 30 years now. And what they always argue is they say, oh, it's just the same as what we've been doing. 1,000 years ago, they took a red rose and a white rose and put them together with a graft, and you had a pink rose. That's genetically modifying something. So don't worry about it. That's fine. So this is a problem. And what's brilliant about that is they are surgically correct. Yes, you are combining genes, but guess what? Guess what? Rose genes are rose genes, so you're staying on the same species there. Likewise, even or even a cousin, a very close relative within species, humans, mules, right? What are mules? Half donkey, half horse. I might be getting that wrong, but that's kind of a version of genetically modified that these people use as an excuse and say everything's fine. We've had tangelos for years, right? Tangelo is one of these citruses that's, I don't know what it is. It's a tangerine with a lemon or something, grapefruit. I'm not sure. But there's about a half a dozen things like that. Pluots, right? Like plums and apricots. But they're almost the same fruit on the biological, when you start looking at families and phyla and DNA trees. Stone fruits are kind of all related. They're off on their own branch. So mixing different types of plums or different types of apricots, it's disingenuous to look us in the eye and say that's exactly the same as putting flounder genes in a strawberry. See what I'm saying, Zach? And that's what they argue over and over and over. And I've debated these people 100 times, and they literally look you in the eye and imply that Mendel, was that who it was? Who did a lot of the I might have that name wrong too. There was a monk who did a lot of the typing of the basic typing of these flowers and peas and things, and showed that you can graft this type of pea to that one, and you get you get a third pea, but you don't really. There's still peas. So I think you're on board. So I just want honesty. And then my second problem would be labeling from day one. And for me, that's 1991 when I first went headlong into this. And finishing that story, I was interviewed. There's a little paper that came out. You could probably find some of my views published by this research industry, because they did a lot of follow-up with me and a couple other people. And I was identified as like a natural foods retailer, whatever. But even at that point, the pushback was already there for labeling, which would be my second attack on this. And I said even then, and I say now, if it's so okay, if it's so fine, then why don't you all just label it? So we have fought for 30 years to just, what? If you want to sell me something that's GMO, put it on there. Well, it's fine. It's harmless. Well, then put it on there. Well, if we do, then people will get nervous. So we don't want to. Nervous about what? Well, there's propaganda and but if it's fine, it's fine. Win that argument, General Mills. Win that argument, Monsanto. So this has been the problem, Zach, for decades. Now, finally, that's starting to happen. And you do see, as you know, you're much younger than me, but you've probably grown up completely seeing may contain GMO ingredients, right, in your lifetime, And I applaud the Worthingtons and the, what's the other company? I get some of their products sometimes, but I avoid the GMO ones. I used to love Progresso soups. Wow, what a vegan staple growing up. Progresso lentil. And what a broke-ass musician staple. A couple years ago, folks, when I was looking for change in the couch, looking for change under the car mats, and trying to get a few bucks to go and buy some food and selling equipment and shit, which is what keeps me humble. I live pretty simply. We live very cheaply. But I'm a musician. I've chosen this job, and you're going to have lean years, and I remember some leaner years a couple of years ago when Ingles, the local store, they would do 10 for 10 on Progresso soup. Oh my God, that was like Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa rolled into one. And, I would get their tomato soup and their lentil soup. But I regret to say, you know, they now label it made with genetically modified ingredients. Now, what I keep saying I'm going to do is call them and see, well, what is it? Because Progresso has an organic line, so they've really stepped that up. It might just be the yeast, actually, because any of those yeast is an incredible flavor profile. Yeast is really in a lot of stuff, and a lot of vegans, myself included, loves nutritional yeast, right? The yellow kind of yeast flakes powder. You put it on popcorn, or you can stir it into soups and sauces. Fantastic. It's very rich, has a real beautiful umami. So yeast is an ancient kind of a flavor enhancing sort of thing. And after all, yeast fermentation is at the heart of many ancient cuisines. I mean, you start getting into tempeh and wine, cheese, beer. These are fermented foods, right? And so yeast, bread, wow, you couldn't get more of a central part of a large part of the human diet. So yeast is okay. Nutritional yeast is great in chili. Exactly correct. So anyway, I need to find that out. And I love that so many of y'all love to do research. Maybe someone can do that. I just haven't had the time lately, and I forget. Maybe if someone could check in with espresso. Check in with some espresso. I need some right now. Check in with Progresso and find out, well, what is GMO, guys, in your tomato soup, in your lentil, etc., because they now say it. So Zach, hopefully that answers just some of my perspective on it. It's a fluid thing. I love to keep up on it, and I get the arguments. If you're interested in this area, and again, I get the pros. You know me. I seek to be fair. Some may say I'm not, but you know me, bro. I try to look at all the sides, and to that end, I would invite you go do some research on something called golden rice. Now, golden rice is a rice that's been genetically modified to have a very high vitamin A profile. Okay? I believe there's some beta-carotene components and also straight vitamin A, one of our 4 crucial fat-soluble vitamins. And that's incredibly valuable to children. And so there's a thing called golden rice, and they've distributed that in a lot of places, poverty-stricken places in Africa and Asia, and it helps kids with rickets and blindness and all this shit. So how can you be against that, right? And so there are times when you have to go, okay, it's a tough one. Now, the big answer should be, let's help places economically. The Western world has largely been responsible for the shit show that the third world is still in 2021. So my meta argument would be, let's help them have functional economies, functional agricultural infrastructures, so that they're not fucking going blind in a world where we are throwing away megatons of food, right? In New York. So this is the other thing when there's problems and there's a solution. I'm often going, well, we created the problem. Well, what the fuck? People pouring over the border from Haiti. Well, we fucked that up. When they had the earthquake 10 years ago or whatever, we had all these billions of dollars that were going to help them. Clintons, I'm looking at you, Bill and Hillary, who were involved with this. Where did that money go, right? To a lot of their friends, to a lot of big hotels on the beach. So problems are all around, and we got to be careful when we try to solve them. So golden rice, I would highly recommend looking at. And looking right now, it's just reminding me, some of the risks include potential allergies or antibiotic resistance. So you have this pros and cons, right? The pro side, they're like, well, we're saving kids. They're not going blind. But then 2 years later, is there a rise in allergies to these kids? Is there an antibiotic problem where now the antibiotics that were helping them not get any range of diseases and river blindness or whatever, now that's going up? So I think you're with me, and we talk about this stuff all the time because I know you, and we talk about, it all comes down to fucking greed, right? Western imperialism writ large still in this century. So the last thing on this topic is how do they genetically modify it? Because again, my beef that's very funny. My beef as a vegetarian is I don't want you secretly putting pig genes and fish genes into my apples, into my potatoes. I will fucking kick your ass. I'm just looking. There's a wiki, by the way, folks. If you want to read this on your own, really looks like lots of sources, as any good Wikipedia article is. I'm just trying to see what do they introduce into the rice. Crossbreeding. Yeah, I'm not getting a quick answer on this. Maybe someone knows. Sometimes we have some biologists here. Okay, here we go. Golden rice. They transform rice with 2 beta-carotene biosynthesis genes. First, there's phytoene synthase from daffodils. There we go. And phytoene desaturase from the soil bacterium Erwinia iridivora. Okay, so they're inserting into rice 2 genes. One's from a daffodil. So hey, that sounds, suddenly I'm halfway there. And the other one from a soil bacterium. So again, as these things go, and remember, I brought up golden rice because it's one that I remember going like, okay, if you're helping people, I guess. I remember this is the one where I thought, all right, you got to, alter your view a little bit here. Anyway, great article, and it goes on to say vitamin A is usually coupled to an unbalanced diet. Exactly, so you're not going to solve it sticking it in the rice. Since carotenes are hydrophobic, and I was saying that before, fat soluble, sufficient fat must be present in the diet for golden rice or most other vitamin A to alleviate vitamin A deficiency. So there you go. So if you're feeding someone just a bowl of rice, then not that much help. Fascinating topic, though. Thank you for leading me to one of my favorite topics. Let's see. Golden rice. I don't even have to title that because there it is in the chat. Amen, Zach. Almighty dollar. Yeah. Mendel. Yes, it was Mendel. Yeah, sometimes my memory does work. Zach says, if cursing is okay, why not label the records as explicit? I'm trying to parse that. If cursing is okay, why not label? Expand on that. Are you making a point about GMO labeling? Because sure, that metaphor tracks, except we're talking about something that humans ingest and can change their bodies or any number of things. You might have religious issues with it. That's the other. Oh, I forgot this. That's one of my third things on GMO, is that by not labeling, and I'm not religious at all, you know that, but I respect religious people as long as they respect me. But if you don't label, and GMOs are huge, especially in the Muslim world, but I've seen them mentioned in Judaism and Christianity, kind of in that order of concern. Because think about it. If you're eating a biscuit and there's butter in it or something, and the butter is genetically modified with a pork gene or another animal gene where it's Lent or it's some season that you can't mix things, which is true in Judaism and Christianity. Wow. And this has happened. So there's some real serious shit, especially in England. I've read about this, where England has amazing labeling and maybe some of the best on the planet. They really, really, really have strict regulatory shit on their foods. Which was one of the issues on Brexit, by the way. They actually had some labeling that was a little stricter than some of the EU labels, and they didn't want to be told that they got to go down a few clicks about how much fat's in their Leicester cheese or whatever it might be. So a lot of moving parts in these issues. But that's another thing with GMOs. Religious stuff where someone might be Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, Christian. They need to know, well, what's in this oil because it's basic products. What's in this tomato? Wait a minute. You're telling me there's a pork gene in this grain or something? So again, the labeling is paramount there. Yeast is a basis for preserving many foodstuffs. I didn't realize it was preservative. That's interesting. Obviously, it's useful for just making the stuff. Zach, you know what's interesting too? Zach and everyone. I'm just addressing Zach because he wonderfully, asked me to clarify this. As a sidebar, I have many problems now with Neil deGrasse Tyson. They have two big problems, and the biggest one is the sexual abuse allegations, the sexual improprieties, those kind of things. You hear one, you go, well, I don't know. This could be he said, she said, or she said, or she said, he said. Any combination. You kind of go, we need to see more here. But this guy has like 4 or 5 accusations now, and it sucks. It sucks. This male toxicity, this bullshit that these rock stars, and he's kind of a rock star, disappointing, just fucked up. And it really, he's such a hero. He's such a guy carrying the torch of Carl Sagan, who I grew up loving. Love Carl Sagan. Love Neil deGrasse Tyson until this shit. And it's difficult because do we throw away his knowledge? Is he less of an astrophysicist because he's an asshole? Oh, man. What the fuck, guys? What the fuck? And a couple of the gals, too. The women do toxic sexual abuse bullshit also. Lena Dunham says fucked up racist shit. She's sexually abused her kid sister. So it's definitely 95-5. The guys are, or 90-10, whatever you want. But, Asia Argento has some toxic fucking shit. And so Neil deGrasse, really, really a drag. The second area is he's on record cheerleading GMOs. And I can't believe it. There's a clip, just if you look on YouTube, Neil deGrasse Tyson, GMOs. I'm aghast because he makes that shitty, unsupportable argument of comparing it to spinach and broccoli and bananas and saying, these things have been genetically modified for years. No, they haven't. Someone in 1802 grafting one variety of banana into another, that's not the same, dude, as some incredibly high-tech lab using nanotechnology and, all kinds of incredible high-tech to graft a gene from one species into another. No, man. That's destructive to tell people that spinach not being as bitter as it was 200 years ago is just the same. Wow. So I really lost a lot of respect for him. Because that's the height of intellectual dishonesty, because you can make the case that it kind of is if you stay in this general broad thing of, did humans change the natural pathway of organisms? Okay, yes. Yeah. Yes, that's what they did if they put a red rose with a white rose. Kind of, though, because pollen flies all around, and the whole history of millions of years of what we know about plants involves a lot of, combinations between species that are close enough to pollinate each other and to grow together and to change each other. So anyway, GMOs, we've now spent a half hour on it, which is fine. That's very important. Very, very important. Oso says, to the golden rice. Yeah, many places, specific vitamin-rich rice. I know, bro. Thank you. Creating solutions for children is an old trope. We're on the same page. I know. And like I was saying before I saw this comment, this and other things create 2 other problems. So then you're like, oi, what the fuck? We didn't have rickets before. Now we can see, but we have rickets. Or whatever. I made that up, but yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Let's just stop destroying the third world. Let's just stop letting oil corporations, energy corporations, banking corporations dictate foreign policy such that we are fucking over the poor and the brown and the downtrodden people of this planet. I'm tired of it. What are we doing still? COVID. Thank you, COVID. Because COVID is stopping a lot of that shit. But, oof. All right. So, you're referencing Zappa and labeling. I thought so. I thought that's, I'm still a little confused with, are you arguing that we should not have GMO labeling? I mean, let me just ask you very clearly. Are you saying that since we shouldn't label records, we shouldn't label foods with GMO? Because the labeling I'm actually okay with, and I was there real time in '85 when Zappa went through that. And I think he was too, if you really parse his words. Correct me if I'm wrong, but his issue was I shouldn't be paying for it as the artist, right? If you're going to stick a label, I ain't spending more on my record to put a label. I think that was more his argument. And he also didn't like the messy tax relationship that was happening and the legislation that was being passed by all of the senators who were the husbands of this team of women on the PMRC. So that's a complicated area. But should a parent be able to walk into a store and say, yes, this AC/DC record mentions alcohol, sex, and more alcohol and sex? It's a tough one. I lean towards yes. It's but part of me says no. But then what does the parent do? Do they have to go? It's a tough one. But I'm with you. I do lean towards it's on the parent. Yeah, they should fucking do the research. And they should realize that their child is going to hear curse words. They're going to hear about night stalkers, which is an AC/DC song. They're going to experience things that aren't things that you want them to grow up to do. So you got to get off your ass and be a parent. I learned that long ago in the 80s when they were blaming Judas Priest and AC/DC for all this stuff. Alice Cooper. And I remember going, my parents, especially my mom, my parents are divorced, so my mom gets the credit for this crazy mess. She said she led me down all the right paths and taught me right from wrong. And I remember thinking, even at 18, going, I'm listening to those same Alice Cooper records, and I don't want to kill babies, or not illegally anyway. Just it's Judas Priest. I listen to them. It's not making me become a night stalker or something. So, yeah, that's a tough one. What a great crew today. This is great. And I have to wrap up. I want to wrap up in the next 10 minutes, but labeling is necessary on all foods. Yes. Sabina, how are you, my friend? Sabina's here, and Sabina, it's late there, isn't it? I don't even know. 2200? What are you, 5 hours? I don't. What's NDGT? I know I should know, but NDGT. What is that? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay, duh. I never saw that. Okay, but there we go. Oh, you hadn't heard about his fucking? Yeah, it's abusive. Easy to find and very disappointing because he's so important to NASA and to all these universities. They've kind of shunted it away. It's fucked up, man. We're in a dark place, man, because well, I'm not going to go down too many roads, but it's a sliding scale for who gets canceled. I'll just say that. But when you're making millions for NASA and Smithsonian or whoever Suddenly it's not that important. Hey, we voted. I voted for Joe Biden. He has a clearly existent sexual abuse problem. He absolutely does. The woman back in what was it in '93? I forget. Very long time ago, quote unquote. But one of his aides, where there was a number of improprieties. And for me, you know what the proof is, and for most people who aren't hypocrite leftists, is that she told 5 or 6 people at the time who all corroborate it. Her mother's the only one not alive, and she's on a radio call show talking about it. It's a little, she doesn't name names, but it happened, and not to mention all of his other stuff. But my point being, every one of these people that are leaders and inspirational figures are fallen figures, and we need to just start realizing that, and stop being hypocrites and canceling only certain, people. Sabina says, greetings from Germany, enjoying some Glühwein. Glühwein. Is there a Glüh in there? Glühwein. As the cold season is here. I've read about Glühwein. Sorry if I'm butchering your fine language. I know I had that. What is it? It's milled wine. Right. It's kind of like what we do, mulled wine. It's kind of when you heat it up, right? Wine with like spices and apple and a piece of cinnamon and stuff. Okay. That's great. So it's hot spiced wine. Okay. All right. Oops. Okay. All right. Wrapping up here. Got 1 or 2 other news items. And this one's kind of fun. Okay. Oops. How do I turn that off? Let's see. There we go. All right. So 1 or 2 other items. Yes. Oh, so exactly. And that's my philosophy. I use the same words even. Case by case, right? It's case by case. GMO. Because, it's really tough to argue something like yeast or, some tiny. I know, I hate to keep using the word tiny because then it belittles it. But the cross-species line, that's kind of, that me personally, it doesn't have to be anyone else's, but that's my line. That's the line right there. I don't want fish genes in my strawberries. Sorry, which they've done. They used an Arctic fish that has some kind of component that stops it from freezing. They isolated that genetically and put it into strawberries. Because strawberries, when you freeze them or you buy them frozen, they're kind of mushy, right? They kind of, it's for shakes and things, right? Or baking or something. And what I hate is, okay, we'll live with that. It's a first world problem. Who gives a fuck that strawberries freeze not so perfectly? But no, we're so fucked up that somebody spent time, money, and effort to fix that problem. Oh my God. There's children starving. There's villages with no water. There's Flint, Michigan with no fucking water. And y'all are worrying about the strawberries don't freeze nicely. So I just go crazy with what our priorities are. Having said that, that's it. They came up with strawberries that freeze and stay perfect by putting a fish gene into it. Oh my God. I don't want to hear about it. So that's where my line is, species. And I know they've experimented with human genes in some stuff. Experimented. They stayed in the lab, we hope. But things go wrong. That's the other thing, too. I remember there was a story of some stuff they did with a rice, actually, with one of these rices. And they put some genes into this rice. And they grew in a field. Rice grows in kind of a paddy kind of a thing. kind of a wet environment. And lo and behold, and they were very proud and very chuffed that they had, um, you know, fallow land around this. They're like, oh, it's protected from everything. We're not going to contaminate anything. Guess what happened? Can anyone guess what happened? Birds, migratory birds came along months later. They didn't think of that. The birds said, oh, delicious, a field of rice that nobody's harvesting. Birds love grazing and eating along their way in the migratory. I forget what type of bird. The birds ate a bunch of these rice grains. And what do birds do? Distribute them further down the line. So this kind of genetically modified rice popped up in other places. So you have all these unknown things. A lot of corn has been affected because corn pollen blows in the wind. That GMO corn pollen doesn't know that it's blowing, 80 miles away or whatever it might be, 5 miles away to another farm. So you have all these problems, and they don't give a fuck. Monsanto doesn't care. They don't. They just go. There's if you here it is. If you look up fish genes in strawberries, there's a yes, it's an Arctic flounder, a fish that lives in very cold water, and it gives these plants cold resistance. I'm just chilled by that. But all right, so okay. All right, closing in here. Let's let me, as I close in, let me say, rest in peace, Colin Powell. Not gonna say too much about it, but I'm conflicted on it. As a Caribbean man, as an African descent man, what an honor that he broke the color wall and was the first black chief of staffs, and he was the defense secretary, and he, did a lot of amazing things, right? Jamaican descent. I can't remember if he was born in Jamaica. I think he was born in Brooklyn, but did a lot of amazing things. And then to me, he fucked it all up sitting in front of the camera and lying about the weapons of mass destruction. Wow. He was the U.S. Secretary of State, first African-American Secretary of State. And, I'm sorry, not Defense Secretary, National Security Advisor, right? Head of the NSA, sorry. And, great career, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs, and then first African American Secretary of State. He and Condoleezza Rice were the highest ranking African Americans in history in the federal government until we had a president, Barack Obama. But so all that's great. Yes, born in New York, Jamaican parents. The other cool story about him, I don't know if you know this, he worked in Brooklyn in a Jewish store, a Jewish deli, as a young kid, like a teenager, very young teenager. And he was apparently a really wonderful employee and just learned everything in the store, including he learned Hebrew. And he was fluent because he worked there for years, in his teen years. I don't know if he funded some of his school or whatever, but look this up. It's a very well-known story about him, but not well-known enough. So he knew Hebrew. And he went, he tells a funny story. First time he was in Israel, as now, 30 years later, he's Secretary of State or whatever. And he's standing there, and it's Israel. Everyone's speaking Hebrew. And someone said something, and he replies. And he said everyone was just like, did you? So that's always a funny moment. So rest in peace, Colin Powell. You broke through some barriers, but why the fuck did you help unleash a 20-year war? And you could see it on his face when you go back and watch the tape of him that day when he was the last. He could have said, nope, this is bullshit. And he rolled with the team, man. He apologizes later, sure. He says it was wrong. But by then, and we just ended the fucking war, 20 years. It's like, yeah, bro, too little, too late. So Anyway, also great to see you, man. See you next week. Thank you. And Zach, yeah, Zach, as you could see, I mean, I thought about it real time with you there, and yeah, I'm ultimately against them, but I'm right on the edge. Like many things, it's very hard to say, but I do err. Fuck it, let parents do the homework. And you're right, because labels, it's like who's deciding, right? What's offensive? What's sexual content? And then you get into Frank Sinatra, right? He's singing about some sexually charged stuff. Or you get into the Rolling Stones, right? Who just stopped doing Brown Sugar, which is really a song about a white slaver raping slaves because it was rape. Male in a position of power having sex where the other person has absolutely no choice in the matter. Wow, this is a hit song, just like a black girl should. It mentions the white slaver. It mentions all these things. Did you all read this story? It's an interesting story in this time of canceling and cancel culture, because it's been a fucking radio staple for 50 years and no one cared. A lot of Rolling Stones issues. Black girls just want to get fucked all night. I just don't have that much jam. Puerto Rican girls this. White girls that. Wow. Some girls. Wow, you could just say that. Well, it's the Rolling Stones. They're heroes. But when a hip-hop artist says those exact sentences, total cancellation, right? Labels. So very good point, Zach. We label some things, and some things, Frank Sinatra's a hero, so the lady is a tramp. What? He's just kidding. It was what they said back then, right? Would they put a label on a Frank Sinatra record? Zach Nelson is the man. Oh, that's great. Okay, Kevin Ritchie, you're talking to a physician about niche bacteria. I love it. I love that you're in the room with a physician, and we are guests in your room with my show here. It might not be edible in Texas, right? Oh, that's great, Kevin. You know too much, right? That's good. That's a good patient. But I'm glad that your physicians are saying you know too much. That's good news. Only complaint with certain GMOs. What happens once it becomes ingested and interacts with human genetics? That's unknown. I think, Zach, you might have said something about stomach acid earlier. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. But actually, it's not that easy. Again, folks, go down this rabbit hole. I've been down it for almost 30 years. And it's problematic. There's testing, there's experiments, there's data that GMOs ingested by humans can be problematic. Of course they can. It's a complicated area, a lot of moving parts. But let's say what we know for sure is it's not benign. It's not just okay because they took two edible things and put them together. No, they've created a third thing. And, I just think we have... we could be feeding people with simpler techniques, but you make these chimeras. Is that how you pronounce it? A chimera, like a fake organism that never existed. Yes, Powell had complications from COVID. Yep, he had other stuff, absolutely, and he's an example of don't fuck around with COVID if you've got other stuff. Cancer survivor. Agreed. Jerome, how are you, my friend? So, all right. So, I'm going to. I just want to give a shout out to. Excuse me. To William Shatner, who went into space. We love him. We grew up with him and Star Trek and all the groundbreaking things. He had the first kiss with a black person and a white person on TV. He had the first kiss with a white person and a green person. He had the first kiss with a white person and a blue person. The man was all over the galaxy. I was hoping there was some joke when they got off the plane. Like, wouldn't that have been cool when they got off the spaceship last week? What I would have done is gone up with some green makeup, and then the one woman on there should have came out green and kind of with some lipstick. It just would have been funny. But you know what would have happened? It was, nothing's funny anymore. That would have been. Anyway, look, this man has talked about vegetarianism for decades. I love it. I think he went to fish. I think so. Someone could look this up. Doesn't matter to me because decades and decades and decades he was just an advocate for animal rights and for the Sea Shepherd organization, which is for the oceans and the dolphins and whales and things. So a wonderful guy in terms of he really put his money where his mouth is. Put a lot of he wrote a lot of checks to these fish protection and animal rights and against animal testing and all this. He did a lot of stuff with PETA through the years. So I just giving him a shout out because that's pretty cool that he went into space. A guy where a lot of us, my age, is one of the first people that got us loving in that first wave of people, right? Everyone on there, Lieutenant Uhuru and, Chekhov and all these other characters, Sulu and Sulu, they wonderful show because Roddenberry was sneaking in a lot of pretty radical ideas, wasn't he? About egalitarianism and humans, can we get together? So shout out to William Shatner, longtime vegetarian. It's relevant to the show. And let's see. Scott Buckner, good to see you here, bro. Talking about some girls. Okay. Okay. Belinda Carlisle. Jerome is having a gluten and animal-free pasta with Beyond Spicy Italian sausage. Sounds good. Jerome and I both had several hundred miles away, but I was talking to him about our dinner, which was pump foo, which is the pumpkin-based tofu. Wow, so good. And he got some and tried some that night and said it was awesome, and he's right. If you're looking for a variety of soy-free tofu, folks, pump foo, just like it sounds, Pumpfu. It's pumpkin seeds rendered into tofu. Very simple, natural thing. Because you can make tofu really out of any bean paste kind of a thing. So really, really good. High protein and delicious. And anytime we can kind of bring the soy numbers down is a good day. Thank you, Kevin. Yes, I would have been. Yes, green woman with her hair askew and coming off a little knocked out. But nope, that shit's over, right, bro? We're the last generation. This generation, man. And again, I always bring up Lena Dunham because she's the hero of kind of a millennial, kind of a TV consumer, movie consumer. And go look her up. She has done fucked up shit after fucked up shit. But because she's a hero, no one says a word. She said the most racist shit to a black NBA guy. Go look this up. I don't have to make shit up. This world is so fucked up. I don't have to make up a thing. She said that. She sexually abused her young sister for years, well into her teens when she should have known better. She accused a gay man of, I think he came out gay later on, but she accused a man of raping her, which then later on she said, oh, I made that up. So she's toxic as fuck. And if she was a black hip-hop artist, she wouldn't be working today. And I like some of Lena Dunham's work. Hopefully you're not hearing me say I don't like her. I'm just saying there's just a weird double standard. Depends who does the bad shit. Same thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson. So it's not about race or sex. It's just about being consistent. Sulu might have been the first gay first science officer on TV. Was he gay though on the show? I mean, that I'm all for it if he, but I don't think he was though in the character. Tell me if you know other. But as far as I know, the character was not gay. But he was certainly not the first gay actor because we had a ton of them before that. We know that now. And in the 1600s and the 1500s on stages in Europe, right? And next to fires in Africa and India, there's gay people from the beginning of humans that were actors. But uh, I don't think the character was. Jero, you're right. He's gay. Honor of the show. He's gay. You are a fool. Um, well, I love George Takei though, and you're right. He's pretty flamboyant on the show. You're right. But so it's kind of like Mr. Smith. Is that the one on Lost in Space? William, my boy. Mr. Smith, I think, had a few more ideas for William. I think so. I'm gonna go with that. William, my boy. But it's awesome, and I love that in the '60s you had to wink, and it's cool. Um, yeah, Eric Svalgaard's here. Yeah, I think he was hetero as a character, but I love him now. His tweets are awesome. That dude is so funny, and he's in this 50-year feud actually with Shatner, which is kind of cute to watch. Come on, guys, it's almost over. Shake hands and be be pals again. But Takai has been fucking great. He said some stuff too. He's very political, and he was in the Japanese internment. He was in one of these camps. He's very young. I think he was under 10, and he spoke out fantastically about that recently. He's like, y'all make me sick. You think this is tyranny? Being asked to wear a mask and stuff like that. I think he was referring to that. He's referred to this a few times. But here it is. For a year and a half, George Takei, along with his parents and 2 siblings, were incarcerated at Rower, I guess. Rower, the easternmost of 10 internment camps in the United States, where an executive order under President FDR uprooted 120,000 people of Japanese descent, many of whom were Japanese Americans. And with an extra dose of cruelty, the camp was named Rower, which I have difficulty saying. So we'll leave it at that. But yeah, he was in there. And look, Japanese people joke around about the L and the R thing. Believe me, I've been in Japan 8 times. They kind of love it. Actually, they make T-shirts and stuff. I worked Fuji Rock, the big festival, and the tags, right? Your ID tags said Lock and Lowell, so they joke about it. It's kind of but rower is that's pretty good. But no, not to make light of a very serious situation, which I am wanted to do. But Takai, brilliant guy. All of those folks, brilliant. He wrote a book about it. See, I didn't know that. Y'all are awesome because I learn something new every time we're here. Yeah. Okay, I'll have to look that up. And it's a play too. Does George have allegations? Drop them in the chat. I did not know that. Kevin says, really now this who doesn't? Lots of people don't. I don't. I'm a pretty public figure, and I had dozens of female employees, and that's why I go, wow, people, it's not hard to just fucking be an adult and treat people with respect. So I think tons of people do, and I've worked for women. I've worked for many women. I've worked for many men with other women in our team, and no, it's not a given. Sorry. Lemon juice squeezers. That's great. All right, folks. What a fun and always enlightening for me. I always learn a few things. Gonna run. I'm a good 15 minutes late here, but always fun. I'm going to do, I think, one more of these, and then I'm going on tour. And I'm doing a soft announce of this tour that I'm on, but I'll say that I'll be out as a keyboard tech, synthesizer tech, for a guy named James Francis, and it's in the Pat Metheny trio. So I'm doing that in November. I'm not, a lot of people know about it. I'm just not making a big social media splash. So please don't put it in the. I just want to keep it because that's what I hate about Facebook is then you got to go on and on and on. This is where I go on and on and on. Mondays at 3. You notice I'm kind of not there the rest of the time because I'm busy. I'm teaching, playing music, doing all kinds of stuff. So, but yeah, I'm doing that in November. Don't ask me the dates. They're right on the website. That's the first annoying thing. I've told a few friends, and they go, well, are you coming to this city? Man, just fucking look on the website. I don't know. So that's why I don't do it sometimes. But, yeah, my Patreon page is there. That's what I've been doing. A lot of that. A couple guitar students. Everything's winding down because I'm going into pre-tour prep mode. And I'm spending a ton of time, since we're overlapping with music here, spending a ton of time looking at this because this wonderful, amazing gentleman I'm going to work with is he's a main stage user. So I'm going to be doing working with this software again. I worked with this software for years with a guy named Eddie Jobson. And it's good to be back with, with this stuff. So I'm spending a bunch of time with this and making some programs. It's one of the things I will take care of on stage. I'll also have a grand piano, which I won't have anything to do with because they deliver it and they tune it. I love that. And then there's some other things. So for those of you, I know I got some people that cross over here that are into the music side of what I do. I love Mainstage. And if you don't know about Mainstage, if you have an OS computer, I would highly recommend it. It's only $29 at the Apple Store. $29. You have bazillions of instruments, and you've got every studio effect you can imagine. You've got old classic, studio compressors and everything, reverbs, every kind of modulation, every kind of limiting and delays and reverbs and things. So you have a full-on, live music suite. It's really incredible. I used it for years with Eddie Jobson, and it's got decent sounds inside it, but you can plug in Native Instruments or Omnisphere or anyone who makes music software. You can plug it right in. It's just, VST kind of instrument situation. Pretty decent pianos, I must say. But if you prefer like the Alicia Keys Native Instrument piano set, you can just plug it in. Beautiful stuff. So anyway, this is what I'll be doing for a few hours later on, and doing my MIDI mapping and just getting my head back into this shit. I just don't use this stuff that much. But it's cool. I tour with a Bowie tribute band, and I use the hell out of this. I mean, the organs are pretty usable, man. I don't know. I think it's pretty good for $29. All right. Aloha.